Welcome to That Digital Take. I'm your host, Torri Webster. This episode of That Digital Take is brought to you by Chatter's Hair Salon, proudly Canadian and your go-to destination for all things hair for over 30 years. Whether you're refreshing your color, trying a bold new style, or stocking up on your favorite products, Chatter's has you covered. And right now, they're treating my listeners to an exclusive offer. Get 20% off your retail purchases online with code DIGITAL20 at checkout. Some exclusions apply. Don't miss out. Visit chatters.ca and give your hair the care it deserves. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to That Digital Take. I am so excited today. I am joined by probably Canada's most infamous wedding photographer, I would say.
What an honor. Thanks, Torri.
You guys are going to love Erin. This is Erin Leydon. You have to know her if you don't know her. Erin, is a renowned photographer, very, very well known in the wedding industry, but you do so much more than that. You do editorials, you do shoots with influencers all the time. You're everywhere. I like everywhere that I see a beautiful photo, it's shot by Erin.
Okay, wow.
So I'm so excited to chat with you today. I feel like you're going to bring so much value to a piece of the industry that I haven't really dove in too deep into on the pod, which is the production side of it and being behind the camera. And I'm sure there are so many people listening that are like, I don't want to be an influencer, but I would love to produce content and I'd love to be on that side of it, whether it's for brands, influencers, wedding culture, whatever it might be. Yeah. So I figured you'd be the perfect person to chat with this about.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
So we'll start with question one, a great place to start. Please explain to people that may not be familiar with your work, how you got into the industry and then how you kind of pivoted photography into wedding photography.
Okay, yeah. So how did I get into it? Well, okay, I feel like this will date me, but I actually shot my first wedding like almost 18 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was actually studying at OCAD, so that's, art school here in Toronto. I was only 2 months into my first year, and one of my friends from high school, her cousin was getting married, and she was like, she doesn't have a photographer.
Wow.
And I think you'd be really good. Like, do you want to do it? And I was like, oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah.
Coming from like a family of all girls, like I was always photographing my sisters and my girlfriends and, just having fun with like fashion and everything. So I was like, wedding, like that sounds like so much fun. Like the perfect day set up for me and I just get to photograph it. So yeah, I was kind of just like this little baby that had nothing. I don't like full on wedding. Like I had never been paid for anything to shoot, like nothing except for, friends and stuff. And then I just dove into it and shot this wedding and had like so much fun.
That's crazy.
Yeah, she paid me $200 and I was like, oh my gosh, me $200. But like when you're 18 and you're still in college, like I had maybe a couple jobs before the part-time job. So to me, $200, I was like, heck yes. Anyways, and I had like a really great time. And so that weirdly happened. And then a couple years later, I ended up photographing. So my high school is quite religious high school. So people actually got married pretty young.
Yeah.
And I
great for your business.
Yes, very good for my business. And also just like, when you're that age, when you're like 19, 20, 21, like nobody knows
totally.
You don't know
your network is who you're friends with. So if they're getting married, perfect.
Exactly. And this was like 2010. So this was like pre-Instagram, pre-social, any social media, really. Pinterest wasn't even a thing. So I photographed this beautiful wedding actually out here at the Hunt Club, which is like a really, really beautiful location. And I always say they had like the Pinterest wedding before Pinterest was even a thing. It was like so, so beautiful. And I shot that. I shared it on my Facebook.
Wow. So that was kind of the beginnings of your portfolio.
Totally. Wow. And I remember just sharing that and it kind of like exploded. It was really, really nice. I'm also the youngest of three sisters and had my two older sisters and like all their friends were, starting to get like engaged and get married. And I was kind of just like the go-to person. So, I kind of always say it like it chose me. Like
happy accident.
I was studying photography and I love photography. I love photographing people and stuff, but just, I almost like didn't even have a chance to really decide. It just happened and then I rolled with it. I obviously, I mean, there was stuff that happened in between and everything. I wasn't just doing that, but it was just something that like stuck and there was just so many aspects of it that I loved so, so much. And I just like kept going with it. And here we are this many years later.
It's
and
so crazy.
I'm not done with it. So.
And I also know with photo and video, a lot of it is innate, self-taught. I know you said you were studying photography. For you, was it innate? Like when you got on set on the wedding day, were you like, I know that this is the shot that I need to have? Or were you kind of strict with yourself? Like, okay, I need this shot list. I need to do what I was taught. Like what was your approach to that?
Yeah. So I feel like the cool thing with a wedding is like it's set up. It's a structured day. Like, they do like the getting ready, maybe the first look, then they have the ceremony. Like, so you are really documenting it. I mean, again, I was lucky that my friend's cousin, she didn't know either. Again, we didn't
Sure.
wedding photography was not what it was back then in like 2007. Like
Mhm.
that was forever ago. And yeah, I mean, if you were around that time, like that didn't, there was no inspo, like that wasn't even a word yet. Like nobody
Yeah.
knew what to look for. So it was kind of just like document it. And I just shot it in the way that I thought was cool as a little 18-year-old, just being like, I don't know, this is being presented to me and this is how I'll shoot it. She gave me no sort of guidelines. I don't even think she knew what she wanted. And yeah, I knew, there's obviously like the family photos and the couple photos and everything, but it's so wild sometimes when I think back to that and even like what I delivered versus what we deliver now and how much more of a production it was. It was just, they just kind of were like, come along for the ride and just like take what you take. And like, I don't know, I think back and I don't know, sometimes I actually look at some of those photos. I'm like, they're still good.
They still hold up.
For sure. Like, of course, they're a little bit dated, and like, so is the fashion and whatever, and like some of the angles and lenses I chose to use. But yeah, I didn't. It was cool. She just gave me no guidelines, so I just like went for it. And I think sometimes I think about how that even just set me apart because I am strangely like most photographers work under another photographer and learn from them, and I
True.
didn't. I mean, of course, I studied at university and studied so many other photographers' work and everything like that. But just
You were the
I,
lead.
yeah, I just
Yeah.
got thrown into it. Like I literally never second shot for anybody. I think the one and only time I ever second shot for someone else was 2 times, and that was just because they kind of needed somebody that was a little bit more senior as a
Mhm.
photographer, and I had the date open. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of one of those where you're just like thrown
Thrust.
into it. You just
Thrust
are,
in. Sink
yeah,
or swim, baby.
literally, yeah. And that honestly, I mean, that's how I
That's the name of
learned.
the game. That's also
And
the creative industries in general.
absolutely, yeah. We all just don't know what we're doing, and you just do it. It just, yeah,
1000%.
yeah.
Is it crazy to imagine then at that time? Because that's interesting. I wasn't even thinking about how in that area when you first started, there is not social media to look at. You're not looking at a Pinterest board.
Mhm.
What was it? I guess Vogue, like magazines? Is that where people, or not even?
Celebrities.
Celebrity.
Yeah, like
Celebrity
exactly.
weddings.
Like I don't know. I always think like People magazine. Like that's
Truly.
maybe what it was. Like there wasn't in the, I don't know, there's kind of like a sweetness to it, right? Like I
Well,
think
and the
that's why
standards have changed so much, right? So back then there was
totally,
like an innocence, probably less dollar getting put towards it, potentially in a nice way, like just very
totally.
authentic, like wedding moments.
Yeah, well, because it's yeah, no, like I think now when weddings are being planned, especially when thinking of a photographer, people are thinking, okay, these aren't just for personal use. Like, who's going to see all of these, right? Like, is it going to be
Right.
published? Are we just sharing these on social media? Friends of friends sharing them? Like, like there's so many different publications online and everything. Or even if you just share on your own personal Instagram, it's like you don't know who else is going to see those images. So it's really interesting. Whereas, yeah, like back in the day, it was completely for personal use. There was
That's
no other
wild.
motive behind it other than just it needing to be documented. And of course, people wanted it to be interesting and tell the story of their lives and whatever. But it's just, yeah, it's night and
Night and
day.
day.
Yeah.
So that's a good transition to my next question, which is
Yes.
then when social media did come around, what did that mean for you? One, what did that mean for you? But then two, how did you begin to realize that shaping your online portfolio was actually going to be getting you jobs? Like, was that shocking to you at first?
Yeah, because especially when I feel like when I started out with Instagram image, and I mean, we all talk about like the good old Instagram days. Like I was
Sepia filter.
totally
Where are
right.
you?
Like what?
We
All
missed
of it. I
you.
know.
Yeah.
Although people are saying it's coming back,
Oh,
which is very
okay.
interesting. I'm like,
Perfect.
do I dabble in that again? Do people like it? Yeah, I was just sharing work. Like I would share mostly sort of behind the scenes. I mean, we all had the one little square to work with, and I would share always all these. Actually, in ways, I'm like, I probably was sharing more from weddings, but not sharing my actual work. Like Instagram
Mm.
was the like, I kind of find a moment in the day to get like the bride or the groom or whoever, like some sort of interesting shot and like kind of that hero shot and share it on Instagram. And
Oh,
it's really wild because I got booked from like people seeing one photo or just that consistency of seeing like,
mhm.
okay, this is what she does. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, social media has really shifted. And I feel like, especially when stories came about and everything, I feel like I really shifted into making like my Instagram grid.
A reflection of your portfolio.
Yes. And I like
Right.
actually showing my work and being like, okay, especially once we started getting like, the 10 image carousel and stuff, it was like a really great way to like showcase my work. So I completely did a 180 and was like, okay, now we're using the grid to share my work and finished work. But yeah, to answer your question, it's just, well, what was your question again? It was,
Like what has it meant now that social media is
yes,
basically this crazy tool? Like it
yes.
went from you running around,
Yeah.
working with friends to being like, now I can reach tens of thousands of people that are potentially maybe just in love with one shot you got of a bride.
Yes.
And that's a selling moment for them. And then now you have 10 more clients. So it's like, that must feel overwhelming in some ways.
Yeah. And it's cool. It's cool to even just see, especially like, you know, living in Toronto, even though we're a big city, it's very small too. So it's
Totally.
like, you know, I photographed one person's wedding and then they went to school with them and then their cousin was friends with them and they worked with them. And it's so wild how that goes around. And I actually, especially recently over the last couple of years, with my clients, that's something where, you know, my work is very much referral based for the most part, even though social media plays such a huge part. Like I feel like that's such a great way of sharing, but I do think referral is obviously the best.
Yeah.
Because people are talking on their experience with us versus just like the end result.
You want the trusted source.
Exactly.
Totally.
But I do find it really fascinating. It's cool. It's also just cool to share imagery and, you know, somebody being like, oh, wow, you shot like Lexi's wedding. And like, oh my gosh, I went to school with her and like, she's really, really cool. Or like, I work with her and like it kind of like, oh, if she trusted you and like she spoke highly of you and like these images and like, or like I was even there and like I saw that, you know, or, you know, she was like always this person and thought she was cool or just, people even just seeing how other people style their wedding or do something really, really cool. And they're like, oh, and they chose you to be their photographer. So, sharing it in that way, I think is special and just, you know, showing sort of so many different aspects of the wedding day and not just like that one single image where it's like, here's the bride and like beautiful sunset, just like the way we're capturing, like really telling the story.
Totally. Do you love Pinterest? Because Pinterest is the bride mecca. Like this is where everybody goes for the inspo.
Yes. But
no,
it needs to be updated. I don't know. I feel like Pinterest feels a little dated now.
Fair.
Like I still use it a lot. A lot of my clients use it. But yeah, I always encourage to look elsewhere. Actually, my assistant, when she's sending out
mood boards and stuff.
Yeah, and like questionnaires to my clients. Actually, a big one is we ask like celebrity weddings or specific like full weddings if you can find them online. I mean, there's so many publications now, just like online publications that share like really beautiful, unique, different weddings.
Totally.
So usually we'll try and get them to share that, plus a Pinterest board. But Pinterest is great, but I'm like, we can go beyond it too.
Let's be more creative.
Yeah, like where else are we looking? And yeah, you know, and not even just celebrities, like is a friend of a friend, someone else,
Totally.
a coworker, like what did they do at their wedding? What are you, you know?
Well, we were joking about this when you walked in, but it's sort of like how everyone's been trying to emulate the Sophia Richie wedding.
Yes.
But you must get that a lot where people just send constant inspo of like the same wedding over and over and you're like, okay, I can do that shot.
Yeah,
I get it.
It's really interesting. And it's like, it's really cool seeing all these trends, especially now being in the position I am after shooting for so many years, just seeing all these different trends.
What changes in the trends actually?
I mean, like there's so many different aspects.
Is it that people want that more like aesthetic rich girl feel? Like, is that part of it? Like all the things that are basically trending on TikTok, they try to emulate the day of the wedding.
Yeah. Or like, it's even just funny to see, like, let's say imagery wise. And like, I mean, I'm sure you'll be able to relate to this too, even like content creators. Like I feel like, let's say when Instagram was first a thing, like the flat lay.
Totally.
We did the flat lay and everything, or like the photo on like the white brick wall, you know? And it's like, and that really translated too. Like I was doing flat lays all the time. I mean, that's still a bit of a thing, you know, like everything perfect and in its place. But then it's like, it's crazy because we did this like shift, right? Where everybody was like
shooting on film,
right?
And like getting a totally different imperfect look at a wedding.
Exactly. People are like, I don't even want things to be in focus and I want like my drink spilled down my dress and I want like, and which is like really cool to see. But then
cool.
even as simple as like every wedding we shot was outdoors for a moment and every wedding was like in a barn.
Crazy.
And then it's like now it's really, really shifted and people are like, well, I want it to be at an estate or I want it to be all indoors at a beautiful like a hotel that feels very luxurious.
Totally.
And
with
like
floral everywhere.
Exactly.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars of floral.
Exactly. And it's like we went from like, you know, this like more is more to like this very like simple, like it's just really fun to see and also just being able to like actually pick out, you know, sort of
moments in the industry.
Yeah. And like who started that trend, like even, what's like the worst, who's Call Me Daddy.
Bieber.
What's her name?
Alex Cooper.
Alex Cooper. Like, I mean, Drop Waist has been in for a while, but it's like that wedding.
That was a gorgeous
Every
wedding.
client of mine has just sent me her wedding.
The Alex Cooper wedding.
I mean, beautiful imagery, but even fashion and everything.
Very light. Again, airy feeling. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like we're heading back to this romantic era, it feels.
Totally. So, yeah, it's cool seeing that shift. And
your photography then, I'm assuming, changes with
Totally.
it? Okay.
Like, Yeah, I think it's, we have our specific style that I think is like constantly evolving. And we obviously work with the trends too. It's also like a lot of trends are like things that did happen. Like they were like
Yeah.
I've been shooting film for forever. And so it's like I wouldn't say that's a trend. It's just like
You're like, it's actually
there
not new.
it's not new. It's very old. Yeah. If
Yeah.
anything, it's just like there's like these interesting different dips.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think it's just kind of trying to figure out these different trends and how that like, Mitch and I are other assistant, how we can make that work that feels like us and authentic to us. Um, but yeah, still going with the trends because I think it's silly to not. And that's why I love photography. There's always like so
Of
much room
course.
to learn and change and evolve. And, every wedding looks different. And, it truly is a collaborative experience. Like,
Yeah,
even though they're hiring us for our work, I'm like, I want this to be a collaborative experience. Like, I know we like what we like and we do what we do, but like, I know you're also seeing things too. And you're inspired by whatever you're seeing. And like, how can
totally.
we like mash that together and it feel like a collaboration between all of us?
Absolutely. So, where does it leave you with the other platforms? Like, are you intrigued or at all inspired to walk away at the end of a workday and be like, I'm going to go make a TikTok? Like, no, right? Like, you must be so swamped with creating content for other people. Like, where does
Yes.
that line go for you?
Yeah, I like this question because so often I want to. Like so many times Mitch and I are like, I'm like, we should be on YouTube. Like we should. Like we
Totally.
live such cool lives. We get to meet so many cool people and go to so many cool places and have like such wild experiences. Like even what I was just telling you before this, my experience in New York and like and everything. But I think there is this very well, first of all, clients first and foremost. So I can't
Right.
be at
It's the
somebody's
client
wedding.
relationship that's like
Yeah,
at
like
risk.
and every time I almost like go into something where I'm like, oh, this is really, really cool. Like it like like anything selfish leaves my mind because I'm like, I can't
Hmm.
be creating content for myself while actually like I'm being
While
hired to
at
do
the beck and call to do the job.
absolutely like
Absolutely. I
no,
get
I
that.
can't do that. And then like there's some little moments obviously that I'll capture behind the scenes and stuff, but I am there for my client and I'm there to create for them and like every ounce of my being is there for
Yeah.
them. So it's really, really hard.
But
But
also good because you are
yeah,
respecting the space that they've built,
totally.
and there's nothing worse even like from an influencer's perspective. Like you hire an assistant and they're like, "Well, I want to be an influencer." So it's like
Right.
imagine you were on set and you're like, "Well, I want to be in this photo."
Right.
Someone would be like, "Oh, well, that's really odd. I've hired you to do this." Like
It's not about
it's
you.
not about
It's
you.
not
So
about
I think
you.
like being
Yeah,
able to put that ego aside, and I'm sure young photographers are more challenged with that. Like you're
totally.
so veteran at this point that it just comes naturally. But
Yeah.
like people finding that cadence to just be show up, do the job professionally, and then call it
Yeah.
quits at the end of the day is probably the best case scenario.
For sure. Yeah. And I'm like, it's okay. Those are like stories I can share in
Yes.
podcasts or in other scenarios.
Exactly.
But yeah, there's definitely moments where I'm like, oh, that would have like that's like such a good story or like that would be so interesting to follow. But yeah,
Yeah.
really by the time it's like done, I'm like, I can't. And it's also personal. Like
Mhm.
there are things that like happen at weddings or at on other shoots I'm on that I'm like, whoa, that's like such a wild story, or like I can't believe this happened. But
Mhm.
those are people's real lives and I can't just be sharing that
Yeah.
and then I'm like, oh, but even if I shared some of that behind the scenes, I'm like, they need the full story and I can't
Yeah,
share it
spill the
because,
tea. What do you have to
right?
say today? No, I'm just kidding. I get it. You have to respect the boundaries. There's no
Yeah,
doubt.
for sure.
So you made a good point. Like you're with people on a very intimate day.
Yeah.
What kind of stress does that put on you? Because like, when there's like the like for me, it's always the hair and makeup team, like people that will be in a space to really calm you down, put you in the right headspace, get you to the finish line. I feel like a photographer has a very similar role where there's a little
Yeah.
bit of therapist, there's a little bit of confidence coaching.
Yeah.
There's so many different roles that you have to be doing beyond just capturing the photo.
Yeah.
And you hope that a bride is not feeling insecure on the day or whatever,
For
whatever.
sure.
But like, I'm sure you've run into scenarios where you kind of have to be like coaxing someone along on
All
their
the time.
most special day.
All the time.
So,
Yeah.
how does that play into your mental health and stress?
Yeah. It's just part of the job. I don't
Wow.
know. Yeah. At this point, I'm just so used to it. I mean, it's like a compliment we receive a lot, not to like toot my own horn or whatever, but yeah, we get that compliment a lot by, people saying like whether it is our couple or their family members or people part of their wedding party, we get that compliment a lot. And it's something that Mitch and I are both very, very mindful of at every
Yeah.
wedding is keeping that peace and keeping that calm because I think actually one of the most intimidating things about a wedding, besides the fact that obviously they're going to be standing up in front of like everybody they poured all their money and time in the last better part of a year into this, is like, you're kind of left in the end with all these with the photos. Those are your memories, are your
This
photos.
is all you've got to
This is all
show
you got.
for your hundreds of thousands of dollars.
But like really, right? And so it's like, where it all comes through in the photos, and it's a lot of pressure for people. And, we are working for, for lack of a better word, real people. These aren't models. These are real people who, have real jobs and real lives that are not used to being in front of a camera, but it is a lot of pressure to be like, this is like, up until that point, one of the biggest days of their lives, and,
Yeah.
putting all that time and energy and effort to like look good, and they want to feel good. But that photography is like, I don't know, it can be a really intimidating thing.
Absolutely. Some people don't like a lens right in their face. They immediately
people
cower and they feel very uncomfortable by it.
Totally. So I don't know. We just are like, let's make this the most enjoyable experience as possible. And, again, we get all kinds, like sometimes we get one half of the couple that's so excited to be in the photos. The other one absolutely does not want to be. Sometimes both of them don't want to be in them at all. Sometimes they're super excited. Most of the time people are just like nervous or awkward. That's like, I think the number one word I hear the most in my life is I'm
like,
awkward.
what do I do with my hands?
Exactly.
That I feel like is the number one question.
Always. But then usually you have a bouquet.
Yes.
Your hand in your pocket.
Actually, wedding day is probably the best for it because you have a bouquet.
I
you
actually
have an
say
accessory.
this, it's funny because I kind of give people, sometimes we do engagement shoots, but not always. But that's like one of the pep talks I give them. I'm like, your wedding day, you're like, again, it's an event. You have places to be. You're like on a schedule.
Totally.
And on it, like 99.9% of the time, you're feeling really, really good. You're looking the best you've ever looked. It's like such an exciting day. So people really like lean into it. But it is, and honestly, it is a big responsibility because like our energy and like what we're giving to our couple, because we are the people that are right beside them the whole day and documenting this, what we're giving out is like so important to, how they're feeling throughout the day. So we are really mindful of that. And we just try and make it enjoyable and quick.
Yeah, what are your tips? Like what makes someone a bit more comfortable or warm up on the day if they are, for example, a bride that feels awkward in front of a camera or maybe just having a lot of anxiety and not feeling confident? Do you have any little small tips where you're just like, look off into the distance, don't look at me? Like, do you kind of just coax them a bit?
Yeah, well, I think it's also nice too because we like ease into it. Usually we start the day by getting ready. So it's kind of like I'm this like
fly on the
wall. So they're getting used to me being around. I mean, also up until that point, we've done phone calls. I've maybe done an engagement shoot. We've met, they kind of understand my energy and stuff. But yeah, I'm just there sort of fly on the wall. Most of the time they're like, oh my God, I'm not even noticing you're there.
That's great.
This is before like the nerves set into like the, last touch-ups of makeup and stuff, getting into the dress and usually by that point too, and typically Mitch and I are separated between the couple and like separately once we're doing like portraits of them, we're giving them tips and everything. But then I always say like once you have your partner, it's so much easier because you're just like kind of working with them. And it is helpful that Mitch and I are a couple as well because we often will just straight up do the poses together and I'm like, do this, lean into this. But we really read our couples as well. I'm like, what are you like? Oh, you just did this like with her and like that was so perfect. Or oh my gosh, when you did that, she laughed really hard. Like you guys were just like walking earlier and that was perfect. Like go back and do that. So we really like sort of tap into like how are
what they're doing right, not what they're doing wrong. It's like building
Exactly.
confidence versus like tearing someone down.
Exactly.
Totally.
And I think a lot of people hire us because of our like sort of more candid approach. Like we really help people pose. Like majority of our work is, I don't know, sort of candid pose, but like, most people aren't just falling into these perfect, like, sometimes, yes, into these perfect moments, but I'm sort of being like giving them direction with some movement. So I'm like, it is candid in the sense that I'm getting you guys to walk and talk and whatever, but I'm telling you like, put your chin up, look this way, look that way. And like, I'm giving them all these cues. And I think just, reassurance always. We're always just like such big cheerleaders. I'm like, yes, that was so good.
Great.
You did that so well. And I'm like,
it's like
and
that Kris Jenner. Yes. You're doing amazing,
exactly.
sweetie.
Oh my gosh, my one assistant, Mary Beth, she's always, she is the Kris Jenner too. And she's awesome. But truly, it's like, I think also so many people don't realize how good they actually are in front of a camera or how comfortable they can be. It's just like, you need that like reassurance and just think, oh, okay, it's like actually not that hard,
For sure.
Or like, I can just be myself, especially just all I need are these little cues and then it's great. So I think always that like building their confidence in that. And then like, I feel like a lot of the stress
melts away.
And again, when you have your partner, it's like, and just a few little cues, it's like, it's easy. And then honestly, time goes by so fast on your wedding day. I'm like,
bye-bye.
Exactly. I'm like, now we're done. We need your family. We need blah, blah, blah.
Totally.
And then it's kind of like, yeah.
Oh, I love that. So you've mentioned Mitch quite a few times, the
Yes.
beloved Mitch. We
Yes.
love him. I've had the good fortune of meeting him and hanging out with him and all the good things.
Too.
Talk about what it's like working so closely with a partner. Is it like the
Yeah,
best in the world? I'm sure there's moments where it's difficult.
of course. But
Yeah.
it is the best. It
Yeah.
is. Like, I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. Some days I'm like, oh my gosh, why are we doing this? And but most days, no, it is. It's before, so pre Mitch, I shot tons of weddings, I was shooting everything on my own. And then we started dating. It was completely not his world at all. And he showed a lot of interest, mostly on the editing side, which is very, like, he only does weddings with me. I know that's mostly what we're focusing on today, but
For
I
sure.
shoot a lot of other stuff and he does a lot of the editing, retouching. But for weddings, he's there with me. But that we really fell
So
into
nice.
years and years ago. I was shooting a wedding, or I had a wedding booked, and my one assistant, it was just an assistant, it wasn't supposed to be a second shooter. He had forgotten whatever, he didn't book it into his calendar. And I was like, oh no. Hi, boyfriend, you're coming with me. He had
Totally.
never even shot a camera. He had never, like, a real camera.
Yeah.
And it's funny because actually people used to always mistake him for a photographer because
Oh.
he
He does
again,
look like a photographer.
but also Instagram, he took really amazing iPhone photos, and
Oh.
he would always use like an editing app and stuff. And he has such a great eyes in so many ways. I'm like, wow, he's way more creative even than I am. He's really impressive. So I was like, people just think you do this anyways, like here. And I remember going into like a back alley here in Toronto, and I was like, gave him like a lesson the day before the wedding, and I'm like, you don't
You're like,
actually
this
have to
is
do
aperture.
like actually, and I completely showed him taught him how to shoot manual, and hit like
Crazy.
I don't know. I'm like,
It
it took
clicked
me.
for him?
It did.
It
like
has never clicked for me,
it
even
took
till
me
this day.
years,
Yeah.
years, and I'm like, I don't understand how that just
I'm jealous of people that have that because,
Yes,
as you
same.
know, my partner is also in film and he'll hand me a camera. 99% of the time, it's out of focus when I shoot it. And I still am confused when he talks about aperture.
aperture ISO,
Like he's like,
f-stop.
yes. And then he's like,
yeah.
open
The three,
it up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what
Like,
the, what does that mean?
Yeah, and then like actually going like lower is opening it wider.
It's actually
going,
very
it's-
complicated.
It is. It is. Well, and so that was the thing. I remember being like, I'll just put it on like program mode and you learn. And he was like, no, teach me how to like actually use a camera. And then luckily, so it was just funny. He ended up coming with me. I was like, there's no pressure, but I was like, for just have a camera with you.
Anything you can get.
Again, I'm like, they only hired a photographer. You're just supposed to assist. You're supposed to hand me my lenses, like, help me direct kind of thing. But like nothing, whatever. But I was like, put this camera on your neck and just like shoot. Just
Smile and wave.
Yes. And it worked out beautifully. And he got like incredible photos. I was like, these are so good. So then, I had a couple more weddings, and then going into the next year, I just kind of was like, would you want to do this with me? Like, I know you're my boyfriend, but like, why don't we just like, let's see how it works. And if it does, because at that point I was only shooting weddings alone.
Right.
It was like every once in a while I'd have a second shooter, or just somebody to come and assist. So I wasn't necessarily offering like 2 shooters, but that was becoming really popular. Like a lot of people, like, we want, we're having a 10-hour day, a 300-person wedding. We need 2 photographers. So I was like, let's just see. And I was like, you know what? If this comes between our relationship, we'll stop.
Totally.
But like, otherwise, let's just see what happens. And here we are like 8 years later, and it works.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And you were kind of alluding to it before, but I assume that means people feel more confident around you guys as a couple on the day because you guys are bringing probably a really warm, connected energy, which naturally like comes through, of course, when you're in a room. You can always tell when someone hates their assistant. Like it's really obvious.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So like when you feel 2 people vibing and you can tell they're on the same, not only the same level, but like wanting the same quality out of the day, that must bring brides and grooms a lot of confidence.
And that's totally what elevated my work too. Is just like working with the same consistent person that cared just as much as I did. Like I was shooting all these different weddings and switching up mostly between 3 different people who were all incredible photographers in their own right, but it was always like a different style. We worked in different ways. There was things that were beneficial with one person and not necessarily with another. And with him, it's
consistent.
And like, I mean, you have a partner. It's just like, he knew how much this meant to me and how much I cared. And I mean, he mirrored that, and not only just doing it for our clients, because he, obviously cared as well, but doing it for me. And I think that that's really special, especially in that world, right? When I'm like, the thing is like working, it's funny because I always have to like change my brain too when I do wedding work and then when I do everything else, because I'm like, we're working with like, this is people's personal lives, right?
Sure.
Relationships, and not just like the couple getting married. It's also family members and friends and long-term friends and cousins and everything too. So it's like, and this is their personal day. Like they're letting us peek into their real lives, and it's sensitive.
Absolutely.
It is, right? Versus, if I'm on a brand shoot and we're working with the whole team and we're just trying to sell a product, which is also great too, but it's we're not, right? Like it's very different.
And
It's
will Mitch be involved in, like I just saw you were working with Missouri, love Missouri.
yes.
When you're shooting a brand, will he kind of be there or will he help on the back end with the
Back end.
editing? Okay,
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So like, yeah, I've been doing a few different things for Majuri, but like for example, yeah, my assistant, Mary Beth, who I love so much, she'll come with me. She does a lot of the lighting and digitech
Beautiful.
work and stuff, and she'll do some more extensive retouching for us. But yeah,
Yeah.
Mitch will do the editing for that.
What are your thoughts on Photoshop for wedding days / like post
Yeah,
production? Like, what does that feel like for you guys? Are you
yeah.
trying to leave it as raw and kind of organic as possible? Or are you like, I'm going to give you a slight Kardashian blur?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like overall, like I feel like even just our aesthetic is, and I feel like most of the wedding industry is, it's real, right? It's a real
Hmm.
day. So, but yeah, we still use Photoshop for sure. Like, I mean, small things like exit signs and whatever, but
Sure.
it depends. Sometimes we do have clients that are like, how about a little bit of a, and, a
Va va
little bit of,
voom.
exactly. And, it's like, if they want it, it's an option for sure. It's not too common, but yeah, or just for little things where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do like a face swap or
That's
yeah,
fun.
some
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
retouching on
Yeah.
like skin and stuff. So yeah, we're very much like if it wouldn't normally be there. But yeah, we've gotten some pretty wild requests in the past
Yeah.
and
What talk about
we
face
have
swap? What
to
does that mean?
well, that's more like if it's like a group shot and like the
Oh.
grandpa's like closing his eyes, but everyone else looks good or whatever.
Oh,
But
I see. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Like if you have a perfect photo, but then one person is like
yes.
ruining it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty rare request, but now with like AI, it's so great. So like, and quite easy. So if there's just small things that like can
Totally.
easily be taken away, but I don't know. There's also this like, we both think about this with wedding photography, where I'm like, it's so like eventually this will all be so nostalgic. Like I
I
don't. Did you
know.
ever go through your parents' wedding album? Like I feel like
Absolutely. And it's
that.
beautiful.
Yeah, and like I even just look and like, I used to be so much more like, oh, I don't want like these cars in the photo, then I don't want people's iPhones in the photos and whatever. But then I'm
Right.
like, but those are such cool timestamps. And
Oh, I
like
didn't think about
a
that.
wedding really is. And I know, like, of course, I mean, I love an unplugged ceremony, but like, there's even just some, like, anytime like girls are taking a selfie, I would like try and get a photo of them
Yeah.
taking the selfie because I'm like, an iPhone will not, like, a phone will not look like that in
No.
20 years,
So we were in
like
Italy for a wedding together, and
yes,
wasn't there like a really iconic photo of everyone
yes,
at the weddings with the iPhones? And it actually
yes.
was really pretty.
Yeah, it's great. I
Yeah.
actually think, was that,
I
yeah,
can't remember who was in it, if it was some of her girlfriends or I don't know,
yeah,
but it was a beautiful photo. It's like the
yes.
entire Italian backdrop and then like the girls on taking the photo of the
Yeah,
bride. Like
and
beautiful.
I think that's cool, and I think
Yeah.
it's a really nice like timestamp and stuff. But yeah, I used to be again like with like cars or signage in the background and stuff. But like when we look back on these photos from like the 50s and the 60s and
Hmm.
stuff, like it's so cool when you're like, oh, look at the cars and like even look at like what they were wearing and like their hairstyle and stuff. It's like that a wedding is a timestamp,
It's
so it's
capturing
like
the moment.
yeah, so like having those things, and I'm like, why don't we don't need? It doesn't always need to be everything doesn't need to be perfect. Like leave some of that stuff in there because I think, or if anything, I think there'll be this whole like, again, everyone will do a 180 and be like, wait, I wish like, where are those? I think that's why people fall so in love with those imperfect moments, those film shots and stuff, because it does
Hmm.
feel a lot more raw and feels real, right? Like,
Totally.
I mean, there's obviously something really beautiful about having that like perfect image, but it's like really nice to balance it out
I
and
agree.
not have those
What
completely
is
perfect shots.
your and Mitch's relationship with AI now? Like now that it is kind of coming into our day to day, like I leverage AI in my work, even
Yep.
whether it's just making my life easier on chat or whatever it might be.
Yes.
But like all of the editing tools that are coming out, almost shocking, like
Yeah, it's
how
wild.
good they're getting. And I know we're
Yes.
not quite there yet, but I think soon, like batch editing will be so much easier. Like already adding like LUTs to a million different photos is so much easier than it used to be. Like you're not going one by one to make changes.
Yeah.
What is that like for you now?
Yeah, so maybe we're a bit slower into it because like we were introduced to AI and like culling and editing like a
Yeah,
few years ago, and I think it was just like a really busy time for us. So then Mitch was like, "I just am not dealing with this,"
fair.
and also maybe being a little bit stubborn
Well,
and
we're
being
set in
like,
our ways, right? We do it our way.
"Totally," and he
Like,
was like, "No, like nobody will know I was there. How will the computer, like, how will AI know that like the
mm,
photos I wanted to share or like that I want to
true.
select and stuff?" Which is so true, but it's funny. Just a couple of weeks ago, we did like a whole call with someone who developed this like amazing app for like culling and editing and everything. And it was a really, really great call. So I think that's
Mm,
something we're going to be, bringing into our
the fold.
workflow, this
Yeah.
year. And it really is just like a helpful tool that doesn't like eliminate us, right?
No,
It's
of
just kind of
course.
like, and really, if anything, it's benefiting the client too, just getting
Totally.
imagery back sooner,
Faster, right?
faster. It's great, right? We're like right now we're at an 8 to 10 week turnaround, and that's,
Right.
I mean, pretty common. I mean, some
Yeah,
people
that's
are
pretty
more or
that's
less.
better than normal, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody recently was like, "Oh my gosh, that's fast," and I
Yeah.
was like, "Why?" And they're like, "I got my wedding photos back like
Like
4
half
months
a
later."
year.
Yeah.
Yeah. My friends, I swear, waited half a year
Yeah.
for photos.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we also have an assistant too who also changed my life. She does a lot of our like emailing and invoicing and everything, but she started doing all of our culling for us this past summer too.
Okay.
And she's awesome. So I feel like that makes like a huge difference. But even still from that, like, she'll narrow down like the 5,000 photos down to about 1,200. She'll just sort of do a set of that and then another set of like 500, but we're still kind of going in between. And then
Right.
Mitch is looking it over and I'm looking it over kind of thing. So that was helpful.
Right.
But yeah, I think we will switch over to this and just
Crazy.
see how that works. But like the editing part feels the weirdest to me. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm
You're like, how can I hand that over?
well, like also we're like, how do you go from shooting a wedding that like looks like this to something that looks like this? And but it's, yeah, when he was showing us examples, I was like, that's pretty mind blowing. Again, we'll still have to go through one by
Yeah.
one and tweak and whatever. But I do think it's sort of just like, yeah, the more we're feeding it, the more it's gonna
Wild. It'll
know.
learn about you.
Yeah.
So you and I, again, I've alluded to our brilliant time in Italy together.
Yes.
Our mutual friend, also a amazing content creator. Shout out Kayla.
Yeah.
How do you deal with? And you were not the photographer, like you were not shooting that wedding that day. You were a close friend with her, and you were just capturing moments that, as a friend, you were there as a
Yes.
friend, capturing moments.
Yes.
But how do you deal with clients like me or like Kayla that are influencers that do want to share almost that like instantaneous kind of wedding content? Is there ever a line where you can be like, oh, I can speed up that like 8 to 10 week turnaround? Because I'm sure for most people, they're going back to their day-to-day job on a Monday and they're like, it's fine. I'll do like, I'm going to a wedding viewing next week from a wedding that happened a year ago, and we're going to watch the video. And that's
Oh,
great.
that's
It's
really
like a
cute.
year later and we're going to celebrate the wedding and see the photos, watch the video. Great. But they're just like regular people. They don't care to
Yeah.
share that on social media.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the clients that do potentially want to share it on social media and are dealing with like this industry that expects like a really fast turnaround, especially if they're seeing live story updates of like you on your wedding weekend?
Totally. Yeah, it's hard. And I think I've spoken with a lot of photographers about this because what we do is so different than content, right? Like we're creating photographs and imagery and true memories and stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, but you have to evolve with the times, and I get it. And I would still say like probably a good 70% of our clients want stuff within a couple weeks, and
Wow.
I get
Yeah.
it. It's like, again, you're planning all of this and it's not just the clients. It's even like, oh, my parents are asking and they want to share their friends and the family that lives in Ireland and they didn't get
Oh,
to see. And like,
God.
so I totally get, this is why, I mean, we talk about this. I'm kind of very into content creators, which at weddings, and not a lot of photographers would not agree with me on that, but I think there's many, many benefits to a content creator at your wedding.
And you're kind of talking about the people that will like capture the day behind the scenes and they are kind of like a hired gun that is a content creator to capture the moments.
Exactly.
I agree.
I think it's amazing because then you get everything that night, the next
Totally.
day, and like it fulfills that
Yearning.
Yeah, and it's not that doesn't subtract the photographer or videographer. Like
No,
it's
because
not
it's like
subtracting us.
tenfold when you actually see like the Vogue cover or like, do you know what I'm saying? Like
completely
it's different.
And I don't know. I like it and I see the benefits of it. So again, at weddings now it's becoming a little bit more common, and I'm finding from those clients they're not necessarily wanting something right away, and they're kind of being like, I understand you need a little bit more time, but there's certain clients, as long as we discuss it beforehand, we will turn it around.
Crazy.
A handful of images. Well, I say a handful, and then usually they get like 60 photos because it's hard.
'Cause you're
like,
working
I'm like,
too
well,
hard.
I'm like, I can't just give you like
I
your
know.
wedding day that was like planning. Like, there's all these beautiful details, and and then I think, well, I'm sending these to you, and you're like, your mom's gonna want to see them, and your grandmother, and then
And
like,
it's
what about
also
your
a
best
peek
friend?
into
And
what's to come. Like I had friends get,
Exactly.
what would you even call that? Like when you get a small batch?
It's a sneak peek. Yeah.
Okay, sneak peek.
Yeah.
So they received their sneak peek.
Yep.
And half of the images, the groom's eyes were closed. And I was like, okay, well, I hope this is no reflection of the rest of the photos you're going to get.
Yeah. Oh,
And then it
that's not
turns out,
good.
like what they were not the happiest with their experience. Let's put it that way.
That's
But yeah, isn't
awful.
that kind of
That's
crazy?
actually really sad, especially in a sneak
And it
peek.
was in Santorini. It was like the most stunning wedding ever. And then the photographer, it
No.
was like a local photographer. So,
Okay.
and talk about that a little bit because you must travel a
Yes.
ton for weddings, but it's
Yeah,
like expensive for bride and grooms to cough up the
totally.
dollar. But the thing is, if you want the quality, you have to pay for it. Otherwise, you end
Totally.
up in this situation where you're hiring a
Yes.
local person. They're not vetted. You
Yep.
don't know them. There's no
Yep.
personal relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting, especially with Europe, because right now, I mean, there's so many incredible photographers all across Europe. So it's there's tons of people you can work with and stuff. But
Sure.
like you said, it's like there is, and sometimes it's even just a language barrier too.
Yeah.
That like actually, a couple clients ended up hiring me, or like actually, I had a client in Italy. She ended up firing her photographer because she was just like the language barrier was just too
Mm.
hard, and I was just worried that like on the day of my wedding, like would I even be able to communicate with them properly? And I'm like, oh, that's like a good point. She's like, I love their work and stuff, but like it's hard. And I'm like, that's such a great point because yeah, or just even it's also just I don't know, even just being from like North America and like our like certain expectations. Like even one of my girlfriends, she got married in Italy too, and she had an amazing photographer. Her photos were so great. But she was like, oh, like I'm so used to going to weddings and like you have that specific time to have like all the family photos. She's like, he never once brought that up. Like I had to literally be like, can I please have some
Family
photo?
pics.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
she's just like, but that's just like maybe just like a cultural difference or something, or maybe he just doesn't shoot it or whatever. But she was just like, I just thought
It's
that
like your
was like
shot
a
list might just be different than what is
totally.
typical.
Absolutely. And so she was just like, yeah. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting. So yeah, we get to travel quite a bit. Actually, we're booking quite a few for next year, which is like wild. We literally just booked a wedding for next November, so November 2026 on Oahu. And I
Wow.
was like, that is a
Wait,
lifetime away.
Hawaii?
Yeah, which I'm really, really excited about.
So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's honestly the biggest honor. And I mean, we're actually getting more and more now. Like it was I feel like a lot of our travel was like people from here that were
Yes.
flying us somewhere, but now we're getting people who are like, no, I live on Oahu, or I live in Detroit, or I live in
Come to me.
Italy, but I want you to come to me, which is like really
Wow.
cool.
I love that
So
for
it's
you.
like a cool mix. Yeah, I'm like, we are getting a lot of people from like different countries. I'm like, how did you even find my work? Which is
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Yeah, it's really really nice, but yeah, it's kind of like the highest honor to be
Very cool.
asked, but yeah, you just really want to find somebody that resonates, or you want to find, sorry, a photographer whose work you resonate with. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's you, like you said, you have to pay for it. It's not the cheapest, but I mean, again, that's what you're left with are your memories. And I feel like that's like honestly one of the things that breaks my heart the most when people are like, I'm really unhappy with my wedding photos.
Yeah, it's so sad.
It is just because I'm like, I don't know, every year you like want to look back on them or you want to share them with
Absolutely.
people and stuff. It's just something, again, all the time and effort you put into
It's
it and
true.
stuff. And not for everybody, but for a lot of people, it's kind of like that's what a lot of people dream of for like their whole lives. And to just have the sort of end result just be like,
Bleh.
womp womp. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, it's very,
It's
very
sad.
sad.
So,
So you joked at the beginning that when you first started, your first rate was $200. I had an influencer on last week. That must be the magic number.
I
She had
love
at like
that.
150,000 followers and was doing posts for $200. So it
Oh my
must be
gosh.
where everybody starts, the $200 mark. I think one of my first
Yeah.
deals was also like $200 or $300.
Yep.
So one, just a great reminder for everyone, you got to start somewhere. But then
Yes.
two, like how did you over time, like obviously the wedding industry has this reputation of like things have inflated rates because it's just, that's the way it is and it's marketing and that's the spin on the industry.
Totally.
So one, like how did you go about like being self-employed and like coming up with your own rates and your own packages? And then two, like how is it different when you're doing things that you're also passionate about in other industries, whether that's like brand shoots or shooting with creators or like whatever that might be?
Yeah, I think this is I feel like this could be a whole podcast on its own,
I
right? Like
know.
how, as like an entrepreneur, self-employed person, how do you,
How do you like accept
how do
your
you
value
totally? And
essentially?
it's hard. It's hard. It's
Totally.
really hard. And it's like, and even just thinking like, oh, okay, like I don't know. I always go to different workshops and conferences and stuff, and I always love to learn from different people in our
Yeah.
industry. And my dad is such a big cheerleader in my life and is always encouraging me to go to different conferences and listen to
Cool.
different people. And him and my mom are both always sharing, like business courses and stuff with me and stuff. And I remember going to one a few years ago, and he actually said, it was a photography workshop. It was mostly creative and whatever. And there was one guy that sort of just talked like lightly on the business side and actually said, which always stuck with me, that he was like, for every 10 inquiries you get, you should only be booking one. And that's how like 1 in 10, that's how you're at the right price. And at that point, I was like, I'm booking like 10 out of
Wow.
10, or like 8 to 10 out of 10, right? So I was like, that's interesting. I remember talking to him later. I'm like, that just seems so low. And like, it doesn't. And he was like, I know, but like, it's like,
But then
so
you're getting paid for the
yeah.
one job what you would have made for
And
the
for the,
10 jobs
exactly.
doing a tenth of the work.
Exactly. And it's like,
Brilliant.
and it takes so long, right? Because it's like, no matter what, even I almost 20 years into this, and I still sometimes have imposter syndrome. I'm
Yeah.
like, like,
Everyone does.
and especially when some like clients or potential clients test you on it, right? It's hard,
Hmm.
and also different. Like,
Well,
I,
it's the power of just being like, I'm so sorry, it's a no then. Like,
yes,
and that can be
oh
hard too, because
yeah,
whether or not it's a personal relationship or not, you don't want to let down a bride and groom that either love your work or obsessed with you or whatever it might
yep,
be. And you're just like, if I'm not in your ballpark, I'm not in your ballpark. Like, that just is what
exactly.
it is.
Exactly. And it's really nice to have people in your corner too, besides like obviously Mitch, which sometimes I have to be like, okay, it can't just be you because you're really involved and you are like so
Fair.
much more like emotionally connected to me as well.
Yeah.
But like, my parents they both have, done very well for themselves, kind of coming from nothing. And
Yeah.
like they've been really, really great, especially just being like, I want to be a photographer, and they really like believed in me. So they have really great business advice and they've always helped me. And like I mentioned, my assistant, she's awesome because she's like in my emails and like
Yeah.
she's just great too. So she's just somebody too where it's like almost having that other person being like,
Well,
no, or
it's like
like
a village around you to kind of check you
totally,
and be like, hey, no, you are worth more than that. Or no, we can't take an L here. Like, we're working too
exactly,
many weekends or we're working too
exactly.
many
Yep.
holidays or whatever it might be, creating
Or
that work life balance. Like,
exactly.
there's so many
Remember
things
this
that go
last
into it.
experience when this happened and blah, blah, blah. And we said like this would never happen. Like, just like
Yeah.
those reminders because
Yeah. You're
it's,
like, remember when I said I'd never do this without an assistant?
yeah. Oh my gosh. Like
Sorry, you need
literally.
to pay for two
Yes.
shooters
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like, it's good to have that for sure. Like community is everything. And just asking for help, which was
Hmm.
something I really struggled with for like so many years, just because never wanted to put people out, was a bit of a people pleaser and just didn't want to like, and just, just thought like I kind of had it figured out, but it's cool just having, and also just reminding yourself, because it's so easy to get lost or to get stuck and sort of just being like, oh yeah, like, well, maybe I'm not worth that much, or like, should I really be if this person is
Or the
saying
worst is when someone
no?
responds being like, oh my God, you're so out to lunch on your
Yes.
rates or like
Oh,
whatever. Like, the amount
yeah,
of brands that will just be like, oh, like, absolute. It's like, well, there's other brands paying this. So
yes.
clearly it's okay.
Totally. Or when they
It's like you have to
compare
find the
you to
right
someone
clientele.
too,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Nothing
Or
worse than
like,
the comparison.
yeah, well, like I'm talking
Well,
to
this
somebody else and they
influencer
said,
or this photographer, it's like, well, then
exactly.
go hire them, babe.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And and now we have the great responses for that and everything. And it's very funny because not always, but I would still say a good 50% of the time, if you just really stick to like this is
Your
what,
guns.
yeah, sticking to your guns, people will be like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, if they want you, and that's the thing. And I think there is, especially with what I do,
You are one of
there's
one.
yeah, and really it's like, but and there are tons of people who will do it for the price you want. I'm just not that person. I
Yeah.
was years ago. I did do it for that price, but I
Well,
just
and
don't
that's the
anymore.
thing. It's like also that's part of growth and part of the life of a creative is one, always dealing with the imposter syndrome and building up that thick skin to a point where you get to your point where you're like, it's a yes or no. It's either a hell yeah or it's a
Yeah,
hell no. And it's like
yeah,
pretty clear.
yeah.
But the thing is, I don't want young people to hear this and think that like they shouldn't have flexibility because I think
Yes.
that's also not right. It's like
Oh,
the amount of L's I took when I first started. Yeah, it was
yes.
in a $200 range. It's like take
No,
what you can get and be grateful for that,
for sure.
build your network, build your experience, build your portfolio, and
Yep.
then call
Yes.
up the big dogs and be like, sorry, my rate's my rate. But like you
Totally.
have to have the experience to be able to do that.
Yes. And still even having moments now where I'm like, okay, maybe the dollar's not there, but what other value am I getting from this? Right? It's not necessarily always about money, at least not for me. I mean, I do what I
Totally.
love, which we
Totally.
both do. It's like so great, but I'm like, okay, maybe, and it's also the approach that the client's taking too, right? Like, yeah, maybe, okay, the budget's not there, but this is maybe what you're getting. Like, maybe you're going to be introduced to these people or this
Yeah,
brand that you really want to do, or you get to
absolutely.
be
Sometimes
flown
you're
somewhere
paid in other
else.
ways,
Exactly. And
paid
I
in other
think
perks.
totally. And I think that's, I don't know. I think it just depends on the kind of like life you want to live and why you're doing what you do.
So you have a lot of like high profile clientele around you. Do you have like a dream wedding you would love to shoot or like a dream celebrity or like anything or
Rihanna,
one that you've shot so
Rihanna, whatever.
Rihanna, if you're listening. Or maybe on the flip then, one that you've shot so far that was kind of deemed iconic to you, like something you're like, I nailed this, like this was my best work.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's so hard to choose because like
They're special in their own way.
they are. And to me, like it sounds so cheesy, but it truly is. It's like it almost doesn't matter like where you are, the aesthetic or how things look, but it's like who is the company,
Who you're with.
who I'm with,
Yeah.
who my client is. Like it can really be night and day. I've shot some really fantastic looking weddings, events
That were lower budget and yeah.
you know, or that were so fantastic, but like maybe the client wasn't everything, or maybe the planner wasn't
Yeah.
everything. But so to me, it's truly the company that
Aw.
is like really, really special.
You're so
but-
well-hearted.
No, but I feel like it does. Like I know that sounds
No,
so
it's
cheesy to
cute,
say
though.
that, but like it is. And I feel like to me, I don't know, the older I get, I'm like, I don't know.
Life's
I
too
just,
short.
Yeah. And I just want to be surrounded by like good people. But yeah, I have some specific celebrities that I think, oh, not necessarily their weddings, but just like
Yeah.
photographed. I mean, Rihanna's
I
like
would
forever
love
my
that
number
for you.
one. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just like, if we're aligned, then yes. Yeah.
Okay, 2 more questions because I've taken
Yes.
up too much of your time today. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
So the first is, what is a lesson that you learned early on that you kind of wish you knew, like a lesson you may have had to learn the hard way?
I think it would, like, I mean, back to like pricing, like
Yeah.
that. I think that's just a forever thing. It's just kind of like anytime you give a discount without without your choosing,
Yeah.
you'll feel it, and it sucks.
Yeah.
It
You're like,
sucks
oh,
in
this
some
didn't really.
some sort of way. It's just like you'll honestly almost ultimately you always regret it,
Yeah.
and that's just something that always sticks with me. But it's like, you have to follow
Totally.
through, you have to whatever. But and whether that means just
And
like
you always know it in your gut, when you take a job and you're like,
you do.
I know this is going to come back and bite me in the ass because I'm being paid Dollarama prices, but
Totally, Dollarama. I love when you say that. I remember you saying that at Kayla's
I have
wedding, and I was
all
like,
my,
that's
like,
my favorite thing.
just when things are
Dollarama.
just a bit Dollarama and you know it and you're like,
Yes.
oh,
but then
come
it's like
on.
I have the inability to like do less. That's the thing that is so wild. It's like, well, I
Yes.
am where I am. So it's like I can't do like a lesser version of me. It's
Yeah,
like,
what's
do I take a
that?
crappier photo? It's like,
Right.
no, I can't go in this 2025 version of me. I can't be like, well, I'll go back to 2007 me and like take a photo like
give you
that.
a discount version of my work.
Right? It's like
Because your
it's-
name is still on it at the end of the day.
Totally. And I'm like, so that's, that is for me is just, I like,
Yeah, you withhold all the family photos.
Right, yeah, exactly. Fine,
Sorry,
we'll do
you're
it
only
cheaper.
getting solo
Yeah.
pics.
But it's like, it's hard. And, you
Yeah.
know, it's also just,
This is things every creative deals
yeah.
with.
And those are the moments that I end up having and being like, no, but like, this is why I've like worked so hard and sacrificed. Like people don't understand too. It's like being a wedding photographer and other photographers as well. Like we work exactly the opposite of 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So we work when everyone else is having fun.
Yeah.
We work nights, we
hard.
work weekends. I mean, we work during the week too, and I'm shooting for brands or doing portrait work or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's like, so people don't understand that I'm like, I've sacrificed just so much of just even personal time and everything to
your own social calendar.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like the amount of birthdays, celebrations, Mother's Day, like all of that stuff, that weddings, travel that we've missed out on because we've committed to this. And, we work hard. Like I try. And then when I'm not working, I'm also like being like, okay, how can I get better at this?
Absolutely.
How can I spend my own hard-earned dollars on like learning more, learning from different photographers, learning from other people in the industry. So yeah, it's also just like all of that goes through my mind when I end up, giving that discount and then
Well,
pretty
and the
much
brand work
immediately-
too. Like,
Yeah.
like what is your relationship now with potentially not walking away from only wedding stuff, but like, is there a yearning to head more into the editorial, focus on that or focus on brand content, just knowing all the sensitivities that play into wedding culture?
Yeah. Like sensitivities in what sense? What
Like
do you
just
mean?
sensitivities in the sense that like you're, like we talked about, you're with someone on their most precious day. Whereas
Yeah.
when you're on a brand shoot, it is more like not clock in, clock out, because every
Yeah.
creative job is not clock in,
No,
clock out.
definitely not.
However, there's less personal investment on the line,
Yeah.
potentially less stressful to like
Yeah.
be a
I
part
know,
of a
it's
day
like
like that.
Almost kind of a nice break. Like I
Yeah.
was recently on this like whole rebrand shoot and it was great. And my client was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like I stuffed a lot into this day because we kind of had like 2 sets going. And I was like,
Yeah.
girl, I shoot weddings. This is nothing.
You're like,
and there's
"Babe,
like a
this
whole
feels like
Yeah,
vacation.
literally. I'm like, there is like hands on deck for everything, which is wild. When it's a wedding day, I'm like, I'm running the show. Like I mean, there's obviously a planner and like
Of
that's great.
course.
But like even they're like, go. Like, it's pouring rain outside and they want to do their first look here and make it work. I'm like, sounds good. Never been to this location before, but like we're making it happen, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like when I'm on set, I'm like, oh, like I'm basically I'm just a photographer in so many ways, right? I'm not creative director. I'm not like
Right.
I'm not even like usually even dealing directly with the
Client.
Like in some ways, yes, but like it's kind of just like
Yeah,
me
you've
and
got
the model
agencies,
or
you've got
product.
middlemen. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm
Yeah.
like, it's actually such a breeze, and like
Wow.
having a lighting assistant, having another assistant, it's like. I'm
Great to do it on the reverse though. Like, being an expert in the hardest thing is better than being an expert in the easiest thing.
Yeah, I always use somebody once said like, oh, a lot of companies look for like, if you worked at McDonald's when you were, because it's like if you could work at a McDonald's, because
you can work anywhere.
You can work anywhere. And I'm like, I kind of say that with photography. I'm like, if you've shot some weddings, you can shoot anything.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part.
Within reason.
Yes, within reason. But like the stress of that day
Yeah.
and like it really just kind of conducting it in so many ways, and also just like also having absolutely no control. Like you are a conductor and you have no control at the same time. Like the small, like oh my gosh, couples walking down the aisle. My number one thing is like they're not centered down the aisle, and it drives me. But I can't interrupt.
You're like, well, I'll be fixing that in post.
And I'm like, but like, can you? Like, do we shift the whole? Like, yeah. So little things like that. But then other moments when they're like 150 family members, and the like couple is literally like, okay, where do we go? Take our photos. Tell us what to do. And you're like, whoa. So yeah, I feel like if you can do that, you can almost do anything else.
Yeah. Okay, this can be my last question, even though I have a million I could ask you. What was your wedding day like, knowing that you've had so much exposure? Like, are you jaded? What did it do?
Oh my gosh, we had the best wedding day ever. Shout out to our wedding planner, Lexi. It was great. We actually got engaged, and then we were engaged for about 1.5 years because it was like COVID. And then we decided in September to have our wedding in December or maybe in August. So we planned our wedding in 3 months. But yeah, we worked with a really, really great team. Honestly,
how do you choose your photographer?
Yeah. So we had Joel and Justina. I had been following them for years. We sort of had a bit of an online relationship. And so I just like knew right away that I wanted them to be our photographers. So that was like an easy choice. But yeah, I mean, we really leaned on Lexi, and she was incredible. We were drowning in work I would never recommend that. Don't be so overwhelmed. We were very, very overwhelmed just because of
leading up to the wedding.
Yeah. And because the shift of all the weddings the years prior, we got married right at the end of 2021. So it was kind of like, all the rules and regulations were changing. So we were very, very overwhelmed, but we also just were like, I don't want to wait like another year, another 6 months. So we made it happen. It was the best day ever.
Aww.
We loved it. And it was cool. I think we even said after that, I'm like, it made us, I think, better at what we did. I mean, for years we were just boyfriend and girlfriend. Then we were like an engaged couple, but then like actually going through the wedding process and, like the highs and lows
softens you a little bit, probably.
It does. Like, especially like just even the months after, we were like so much more emotional to like every couple
experience.
Because it's a lot.
Nice.
It's a lot, but we had the best day.
Aww,
it was the best. Yeah. We're
sweet
very lucky.
Mitch. I love it. Erin, I can't thank you enough for coming today. I think people are going to get so much value out of this episode. Plug all your socials and where people can find you.
Okay, like right now?
Yeah.
So Erin Leydon on
right
Instagram.
now. Erin Leydon on Instagram.
I'm like, do I write this down? Yeah, Erin Leydon on Instagram. I am not on TikTok.
You're not on TikTok.
I'm just like a little ghost on TikTok. I love TikTok, but I do not share on there. So yeah, Instagram, and then my website is leydonphotography.com.
Leydon Photography. Guys, if you're getting married this year or next year, I guess you're already probably booking for what, 2026 now?
Yeah, it's wild.
Because it always is that way in this culture, right? It's like a year ahead.
Yeah. Like I said,
we booked. So you're telling me the second I get engaged, I need to call you.
Yeah. Yes.
It's going to be like instantaneous.
That would be my dream. That's actually my dream wedding.
Well,
yours and Adam's wedding.
It's obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously. You heard it here first. But yeah, clearly not engaged yet. So we'll see. But yeah. Oh my God. Well, thank you so much for coming today. It's been such a pleasure. And I can't wait to shoot with you again. That'll be the next fun thing.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
All right. Love you guys. Mean it. Bye.